It's been an interesting year. Following the complaint lodged by David Grush with the Inspector General of the U.S. intelligence community, the House Oversight Subcommittee of the U.S. Congress met and heard sworn testimony from David Grush, Ryan Graves, and David Fravor. Now members of Congress are concerned that the Pentagon may be illegally withholding vital intelligence concerning national security and an existential threat to the USA. Here to disentangle the wood from the trees is a person widely recognized as the most lucid and grounded researcher and commentator on the UFO phenomenon today. I'm talking about Richard Dolan. Richard, welcome back to the Fifth Kind TV.
Thank you, Paul. I recall our time together a few years ago, and it was fabulous, and I'm very glad to be back here with you.
I really enjoyed our last conversation, and sitting down with you today, I'm heaving a sigh of relief because there's been so much noise and angst in the air following this recent hearing. And I feel here I'm with somebody grounded, somebody sane, who can keep our feet on the ground as we assess what's going on. What does it mean? Has something significant happened? How does it relate to the wider picture? So can we start off? We'll go straight to Washington, and I'll ask you to summarize what you see has been happening there.
First of all, I will say this is something significant. For many, many years, decades, generations, there had been attempts to get the UFO, or now UAP, subject before members of Congress in the form of some kind of hearing. And typically those efforts failed. There were a few moments during the 1960s, we have to go way back, to find a few incidents in which there was like a one-day event in Congress where the subject was discussed. One was in 1966, another was in 1968. And they were both interesting, especially the latter of the two, but neither were anywhere close to what we saw this last summer in terms of significance and impact, and definitely in terms of public impact. The other two hearings, they weren't even really hearings. They were more like kind of briefings and a symposium, I guess you could call it. Did not have anywhere near the effect that this one has had. And also the quality of information that we have in this one in 2023 is just vastly outstrips the others. So this is something very new. It had never been able to kind of happen the way this one did. And so that's one thing. In terms of the significance, I mean, we had the three individuals testifying. You mentioned Ryan Graves, pilot, another pilot, David Fravor. Both of them are well known. And then we'll say the new guy, David Grush, who really, I think what he had to say was by far the most jaw-dropping, significant. And, you know, as of yet, we'll just have to say not officially confirmed. Whereas, you know, what the pilots had to say, Graves and Fravor, I don't think anyone's really disputing what they experienced and what they described, which were very extraordinary UFO experiences. But in the case of Graves, I mean, he just really laid it out there, didn't he? He said, you know, there's technology that we've acquired, and he talked about non-human biologics, that is aliens, essentially. That's his bureaucratic word for it. So we're talking about UFO crash retrievals and alien bodies. And this is something that UFO researchers, myself and many others, have been talking about for many years. In some ways, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's, you know, it's one thing for the U.S. government, or any Western or any government for that matter, to say, maybe there's something out there. But it's quite another thing for them to acknowledge that they have had possession of exotic technology that did not come from this civilization, because that implicates them in a cover-up, which is what we've been talking about all along. There's a cover-up. And we are now, in case any of your listeners missed the memo, and I'm sure no one did, you're not supposed to believe in conspiracies anymore. Those are bad. No more conspiracy theories. And yet here we are now on the knife's edge of acknowledging the greatest of all conspiracies. That is the UFO cover-up. I don't know what would qualify as a bigger one. So it's a very difficult position for the governments, particularly the United States government, which is beleaguered now on all kinds of levels, not just the UFO, for them to admit something on the lines of, oh, yes, we have hidden this truth from you for many, many years, despite the fact that we told you for years it was nonsense, that it was misidentification, hallucinations, hoaxes. In fact, it's true. Like, that's not a good place for them to be. So we're in a really interesting place now. What I predicted, I'm waiting for this to happen. I think it's already started. I think that David Grush is going to, unfortunately, be in danger of being the victim of death by 1,000 cuts from the major media and the establishment. I think his statements are such that they cannot be allowed to stand for the establishment to allow this. And I think that we're already seeing there's, media attacks against him. Obviously, these are all supported by intelligence community operatives and so forth. And they're already starting to just take him down. So I think we're going to be seeing more of that in the coming year.
Is it possible that the government is managing the embarrassment of having kept such earth-shattering secrets for 70 years by saying, well, we didn't know, it's the Pentagon's fault. They withheld this information from us. I mean, it's not a good look, but is it a better look than the president saying, we have been keeping secrets?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. Let's explore this. One thing that I feel incumbent to say is that I do not believe that we are looking at a deep state op in the sense of releasing a false disclosure, which I hear this from analysts who clearly do not understand the UFO phenomenon or are just pushing some kind of agenda. I think I can't understand why else. What I have been seeing all along is a battle, a factional war within members of the establishment. And this is something that we've seen throughout human history. There have always been factional battles among elites. So in other words, someone like Grush, someone like Lou Elizondo, they're not revolutionaries. They're not trying to take down the system. They believe in the system, but they have a difference of opinion on the wisdom of the policy of UFO cover-up. That's not new. This goes back to the 1950s. We've tracked it. And I think we're seeing another iteration of that today. So what that means is it's a war that's playing out within the national security community, within the media, which is an arm of that same community. And that's what's going on. So you'll see factions that will support this narrative that Grush is saying. And there's definitely individuals, part of the faction, that are adamantly opposed to releasing any of this information because it is explosive. Now, back to what you were asking. Would the president, throw the Pentagon under the bus, so to speak, if things got to that point? Well, if things got to the point where the UFO, UAP, alien reality, whatever this is, non-human civilization, where this has to become acknowledged openly, yes, you're going to see rats jumping the sinking ship, and you're going to see people playing the blame game however they can to cover their own behinds in this matter. No one wants to be implicated as the bad guy. And so that would be definitely possible to see. It's problematic for any U.S. president to go after the military in something like this. That's a real thing to see. We have in the Washington of today, it's dominated by neocon, empire building, militarists. That's Biden's White House. They are 100% in the mold of the neocon empire people. These are severe and sincere ideologues. So I don't see them going after the military if it were to come out anytime soon. But the fact is, I don't see an acknowledgement on this coming from, certainly not from the Joe Biden White House at all. Not for as long as he's president. If someone else comes in, whether it's Trump, if that happens again, or if that doesn't happen, I don't know. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But certainly, I don't see the Biden White House doing any kind of acknowledgement. Now, if things get out of control, I mean, the one thing you can wonder is if there'll be more congressional hearings, because there is talk about this. And there has been talk right from the beginning that there are more witnesses, people in addition to Rush, and I'm sure that that is true. So that's the wild card element of this. If that card is played and more witnesses come out with yet more testimony, or the other thing you could add would be if Grush is able somehow to provide public verification of his claims. I don't know that that will be possible because, as he has said repeatedly during the hearing, he's dealing with very classified and sensitive materials, and he feels that he was just barely able to say the things he did without implicating himself legally. So,
Yes.
but nonetheless, there's always the possibility that there could be corroboration or confirmation of what he has said. And if that's the case, well, then we're in for a major S storm, so to speak.
Sure. Thanks for watching this short video clip from our main YouTube channel, The Fifth Kind. Click here to watch the full video.